Hey guys, so this time around we got a little more of a productive, probably not the most interesting task on the channel, but it's something that needs to be done. What you see there is my trusty old 1986 Gale 3310 skid steer, skid loader, skid device, dirt mover. So late fall, we made a last-ditch effort to move a little bit of dirt before, this crap happened. And I mean, during this process, the tired, on borrowed time motor made a loud bang and went down a cylinder. Here's that tired old motor. Now, found out which cylinder it was, which is this side. If you watch very carefully here, that piston is no longer connected to the crankshaft. So the connecting rod has officially left the chat. So we could have rebuilt it, but I already threw rings and crap at this motor once already, so it's tired. Time to replace it. I think it's a 20 horse Onan twin. But what I did find was this. It's a brand new Predator 670 rated at 22 horse. So we go to an overhead valve. So the only thing that was different, obviously we'll have to make motor mounts, but was the shaft here. We're dealing with I believe it's about an inch shaft and an inch and an eighth on the drive shaft going to the pump on the skid loader. So we have to sleeve it. Purchased that off the old Amazon. So we'll be able to put that on there, and the drive shaft will be able to attach to it. And the plan is then we're going to set the whole engine back inside the chassis and then block it up, get it positioned right, and then we can fab ourselves some motor mounts. The goal is to get it running, like I said, move it up to the front garage where it's heated. Right now it's 0 or less than 0 degrees out in this tundra just south of Canada. So quick, simple, let's get it bolted in here and then get it moved up front and do the final stuff, which isn't going to amount to much. We got to get the throttle controls hooked up, the choke controls and the ignition switch on off, and the other potential detail lights. This thing has a oil pressure light on it. I'm not sure if the Predator has some sort of oil cutoff switch on it or pressure switch on it. We'll have to look at that. And some other things that need to occur is it's going to need a fuel pump. There's a fuel inlet right there. Obviously it's going to be below the float level of the carburetor. So we'll need a fuel pump, which there's a vacuum driven fuel pump on the Onan. So I'm going to plan on trying to pull that off and use that. I don't know, I prefer the vacuum drawn pump than especially for this carb stuff, than a electric click clack. They seem to be way more reliable and well, far quieter. So let's get this stuff rolling, get that drive shaft on that motor, get the motor set in here and block it up. I also got to obviously clean the chassis up. It might be a little dirty because it hasn't been looked at in years. So scrape that clean too, so we have someplace clean to work. Well, procrastinating on weekly, yearly, monthly pressure washing while I'm using this thing has not paid off. But nevertheless, we got the petrified grease and oil and dirt and sand and leaves chisel out of the chassis there. So now we're ready to actually set the new motor kind of in place. We'll lay some boards on there just to support it. Obviously we need to get it up in the air so it lines up with said drive shaft on the pump shaft of the pump. And then we'll start tapping out motor mounts. Okay, pulled the motor out before I had it actually videotaped, but I got it squared up with 2x4s, and so that the drive shaft had a nice parallel run to the hydraulic pump there, which I like that position. So now we're building the mounts, which if we go over here, this is the original mount that was on that motor. So all I did was just re-drill the holes, and that'll work just fine for that. So this is the front facing out. Now we got to build some longer ones because we're sitting down a recessed belly of the thing for this back one here. So to build that, we picked up chunk of 1/4 inch plate, 1/4 inch, isn't it? 3/8 inch plate. So we'll cut this up, make a mount out of it. Pretty straightforward. Similar to the one that's on there right now. It's a little taller, so I made a flat bar at the bottom, and I weld the tabs right to this piece here. So it'll be something like yeah, yay. So I'm gonna do some cutting, a little bit of welding. Probably won't videotape that, maybe a little bit, just to show you that I can actually weld a little bit, and then bolt this together, and then we'll be able to set the motor in there and start refining the last little pieces. Like I told you, the biggest trouble is probably gonna be that right there, the muffler, because now the muffler is on the back of the engine, and the pump and everything's in the way here. So I'm gonna have to do some exhaust pipe work, but we'll know more here in a little bit. Let's get this stuff first. Okay, in an effort to do things the wrong way but the easy way, we're using 2x4 as a spacer, which I ran to the table saw to get my exact measurement at 4.21 inches gap to gap. Just make sure you're doing this, you use a precision 2x4 from your local machine shop, not just your standard Home Depot stuff. Anyways, let's get this couple pieces of metal here cut right here, boom, boop, boom, and get those welded in, and this mount will be done. Okay, doesn't look too bad, right? Should be plenty strong enough. Sorry about the background noise, but not freezing for you people. All right, let's get it lifted up. We'll set it back in the chassis here. I'm gonna try to, I've got a little bit of, I'm gonna get that drive shaft more flush with here so I can move back about a 1/2 inch, which will give me a little more room for muffler. So I'm gonna slide that shaft back a little bit first, and then set this in there. I might set the muffler on it too and rest it in there so I can see, so we know our problem is going to be that guy there. Muffler's awfully close to specifically that line there, so I really don't want to fab up a complete different exhaust system if I don't have to, but we might. Let's see what happens. All right, look at that. That works out pretty good. Mount's good, drive shaft looks good back there, and the muffler idea seems like it's going to work out just fine. Lots of clearance here. I may be able to just maybe pie cut here and here, tilt the muffler up just a little bit. It'll still have enough distance between here to keep us from getting hot, and maybe get off the drive shaft. I don't have much, got about maybe a 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch gap on the bottom here for the muffler, so that might work. Then we just pipe out of there and get it out of the, out of the engine compartment here somehow. But yeah, that's gonna work just fine. Pretty happy with that. So let me knowing I can get this muffler out here now, if it's upside down, I'm going to take the muffler off, leave the motor in place, we can get ready to start drilling the holes, mount the engine to the chassis. Those all holes all look good, all on hard metal. Yeah, I like this. Alright, let's do something. We'll start with probably get the muffler off and get the holes drilled for the motor to get it actually bolted into the chassis, so it's in there for good. Alright, that'll work. Pie cut both the pipes. Gave me plenty of room between the drive shaft and the muffler. So I'll get this muffler off. Actually, I'm going to set the whole thing back in there because I can actually get this muffler off of here with the engine in there. Holes are drilled for the actual mounts. Those are done. So we can set this thing in here, bolt it up, and we'll see how this muffler whole thing is going to work. That's my only little concern right now. It should be okay. I'm just worried about clearing everything, so it's not going to get anything too hot right there. So let's set the motor back in there. Alright, next on the agenda is, here's the choke cable. There's the original one, and it's not long enough to connect to right here. So we're going to replace this. I did pick up another one, a significantly longer one, right here. So we just gotta basically unbolt this turd here and from the back side, and slide the new one in and hook it up. Should only take a few minutes. So let's get this done real quick, and I'll show you the thing running. Yeah, there you go. Choke hooked up. So I left it a little bit long. We'll get some zip ties on it so it's not having potential rubbing on anything. And then we move on to this. Actually, we'll start it first, but right now I'm starting it from the back here. Here we've got the original wiring harness pieces. So I need to first get some multimeter work on that switch to see what exactly is going on with it, how the ignition switch system works. I'm hoping that it's similar to the original motor, and I can literally just cut these wires, splice them into those wires, and we're done. So let's get that zip tied up, and then we're going to attack. Actually, we'll start it first, just so you guys can see it does run. I did start it already and ran it already. Operated it, moved it around, it worked fine. It's a brand new motor, so I wasn't surprised it was going to start, but I did want to check and make sure that it had plenty of power, and I would say significantly more power than it had before. Not downfall on the Onan motor, but it was tired and worn out. Rated at 20 horse, probably made about 6. So yeah, it's significantly better, so it makes me very happy. So let's get on that. We'll fire it, and then we'll wire it. Okay, ready? There you go, running. Here's it going. So there you go, it runs. Now let's do the wiring, which is probably the last piece we need to do. And then it's functionally done. I'm sure there's all kinds of other crap I forgot, but it'll function anyways. Alright, we made some assumptions here and some guessing, and it was all incorrect. I was hoping to be able to use the original switch up there on the dash to run this thing, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I tried. Problem is the original Onan motor was a 12 volt hot to the coil, and of course a 12 volt remove would cut the engine off. The Predator is a coil ground, so there's 3 coils in here, 1 charge, 2 ignition, and to shut it off all you do is grounding the 2 coils like a typical small engine. So that's going to make that switch up there not work correctly. So we're going to unwire. I'm going to undo all this shit I did here, and eliminate the previous chunks of video of me putting this together, and we'll start over. I'm probably going to have to put the original switch up on the dashboard, which will be fine because I need, I think, 4 wires, and I've got easily 4 coming down from that switch, or from that harness, so I won't have to actually run any more wire. So let's get this undone, do some more checking. There's actually there's a low oil pressure sensor, which I think is this yellow one here. A lot of people are actually disabling that thing, but I'm going to leave it just because I'm not good at maintenance. So let's we'll leave that hooked up, so when I screw up and don't check the oil, we don't wreck the motor. So let me get this undone, and then we'll start over and figure out what the hell's going to do, what the hell we're going to do. Yeah. All right, we got stuff done. Wires are all tidied up ish. Well, they're off the stuff that might burn or melt stuff. I did end up wiring in the original switch into the tractor up yonder, or up into the skid loader up yonder. The original switch, I think I mentioned this, was, the original motor was a 12 volt sent to the coil to start it, 12 volt remove to shut it off. This motor is a ground coil to shut off. So that switch didn't have the provisions to do that. It worked out fine anyways, because there was obviously wires coming back here from the original switch that I was able to just hijack and run them back to the motor, so I didn't have to run any wires. It works good. So yeah, it doesn't look great, but okay, well, it doesn't look super great, but you know, the switch is up there. It does work. So that being said, let's take this thing out for a spin. Take it for a run. See how it does. Alright, let's take this thing for a spin. It's a frozen tundra. The day we were 60 a day or 2 ago, and now we're 3 degrees or something, so took a little bit to get her started. We're letting it warm up. We'll get her out there. Well, there you go. That's all you get. It's too damn cold out here. I'm going inside. Well, there you go. A Predator 670 installed in a 80s skid loader. Obviously not a great instruction video on how to do this, but being there's only probably 3 of us on the planet that actually have this skid loader anymore, it's more of a show and tell of how you can actually swap a motor into anything. You know, this one, it was a prime example of if it physically fits, there's generally a way of doing it. You know, in the case of this motor, it was simply a matter of making an extra motor mount, a sleeve on the actual output shaft on the motor to connect to the drive shaft, and a little bit of wiring, and boom, off it goes. It's done. Saved quite a bit of money and put this old girl back in the road again. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.